call our January 7th, 2025 school board meeting to order, starting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Andrew Manna from Church Hillonanthrum.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, members of the community. Annual meeting by statute, Indiana Code, requires reorganization of the board, and we'll conduct that with the nomination of officers here in a moment. But on behalf of Church Hillonanthrum, our partners, my partner here with me, Julia Kazicki, we are excited to represent the school corporation, and we have 3 members to be sworn in, and we'll start with that with your oath of office. If you'll come out in front of the audience. Members of the board, as your reorganization of officers at the annual meeting, you have the opportunity to nominate officers. You can do that individually or a nomination by a slate. I will entertain a nomination for officers.
I have a nomination. I nominate Christy Crosser for president, Stephanie Lambert for vice president of the board, and Joe Forgy for secretary.
Okay, for Mr. Richardson, we have a nomination for Christy as president, Stephanie as vice president, and Joe as secretary. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joe. As a second, we now entertain any discussion of the slate of officers. All right, without any discussion, we'll move to a vote. Christy as president, Stephanie as vice president, Joe as secretary. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Your nomination as slate of officers is passed unanimously. Congratulations. And Madam President, I will turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you. We will now go through the board appointments. These are board committees that each of us have decided which committees we're going to serve on. So academic program review, we have Misty and Stephanie. Athletic review board, Brett. Attendance review committee, Misty. Calendar committee, Stephanie. High ability committee, Stephanie. Legislative committee, Joe. Noblesville Schools Education Foundation Board, Christy. Noblesville Parks Board, Joe. Noblesville Redevelopment Commission, Stephanie. Noblesville Youth Sports Alliance, Misty. Safe Schools Committee, Brett and Misty. Technology Committee, Misty. Wellness Committee, Christy. May I have a motion?
So move.
Thank you. Second? Second by Misty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on to administrative appointments. May I have a motion to approve the administrative appointments as listed effective the 2025 school year?
So move.
Joe, second?
Second.
Second, Stephanie. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next up, we have a motion to set our regular school board meeting dates for the third Tuesday of each month, excluding the October 2025 meeting date due to fall break. And the meetings do start at 6 p.m. here at this location. May I have a motion? Misty?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on, may I have a motion to adopt the resolution for payment of the Board of School Trustees with a $2,000 annual salary and per diem as indicated in the resolution effective January 2025?
Motion.
Motion by Stephanie, second by Misty. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have legal counsel. May I have a motion to retain Church Hiddle and Antrim as legal counsel for the 2025 calendar year at a monthly retainer of $1,800?
So move.
Joe, may I have a second? Second by Misty. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Appointment of treasurer and deputy treasurer. May I have a motion to appoint David Hortemiller as the treasurer and Susan Wilson as the deputy treasurer?
Motion.
Brad, may I have a second? Misty? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Next up, we have purchasing agent. May I have a motion to appoint the superintendent, the CFO, or their designee as purchasing agent for Noblesville Schools pursuant to IC 5-22-4-5?
So move.
Joe?
Second.
Second by Stephanie. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have extracurricular treasurers. May I have a motion to authorize the extracurricular treasurers to utilize credit cards and charge accounts with the understanding that purchases are limited to items that are perishable or miscellaneous classroom supplies, which are not available at a competitive price through another vendor?
So move.
Joe? Second. Second by Misty. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Vendor payments. May I have a motion to approve the ability to pay claims on a weekly basis through December 31st, 2025?
Motion.
Motion by Stephanie. A second? Misty. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Last, we have may I have a motion to authorize the superintendent and the directors of special education to sign agreements for alternative services and private residential school placements?
Move.
Joe, second by Misty. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. All right, we are through that and on to Dr. Heil for recognitions.
All right. Thank you, and congratulations again to our 3 new board members for starting their second term. 2 of them starting their second terms, 1 of them starting his very first term tonight. So congratulations, and thanks for being here. At this time, it is my honor and privilege to call up Mr. Eric Thornberry on behalf of the Music Department to start off some exciting recognitions tonight.
Thank you, Dr. I actually believe we have 3 separate recognitions that are not just marching band. So I'm going to start by calling up the band directors from Noblesville West Middle School, Stacy White and Leslie Wales, and they have some exciting recognitions for you.
The Noblesville West Middle School community is thrilled to celebrate 2 exceptional musicians who have been selected to represent our school in the prestigious 2025 Indiana Junior State All-State Band. This remarkable achievement, coordinated by the Indiana Bandmasters Association, recognizes the outstanding musical talent and unwavering dedication of these young performers. Being chosen for the Junior All-State Band is a distinguished honor that highlights their extraordinary musical abilities and their work ethic. The upcoming All-State Festival in January in Fort Wayne, Indiana will provide these talented students with an unforgettable opportunity to perform alongside other top young musicians from across the state, showcasing the incredible musical potential of Indiana's youth. Congratulations to flute players Julia Herstein and Oliver Conrad for this accomplishment. You guys can go ahead and come up here.
We are very excited about the talent of our middle school students that are coming up, so congratulations again to our junior all-state band students. That's huge. At this time, we'd like to call up our all-state jazz band students, Zachary Swanson, Ben Whitaker, Owen Stitcher, Asher Becky, and Isaiah Westland. Mr. Luttrell could not be here. Just go stand up there, guys, and stare awkwardly out at the audience. Mr. Luttrell could not be here today. He's actually jazz band, and so on alto saxophone, lead alto is Zach Swanson. On tenor, second tenor, first tenor, Owen Stitcher, he's only a sophomore, and Ben Whitaker on trumpet. And they'll be representing Noblesville for the entire state of Indiana at the IMEA Music Educators Association State Convention with the All-State Jazz Band. So congratulations, you guys. Before you shake your hands, I have a few more announcements about our jazz program. So we just got word over Christmas break that it's called it's a National Jazz Band of America, it is called, through Music for All. And we have 4 students, and this is in the entire nation, that are going to be representing Noblesville in the Jazz Band of America. And that's Zach Swanson on alto, Ben Whitaker on trumpet, Isaiah Westland, and Logan Stepke on trombone. So congratulations, they're going to be in the Jazz Band of America. And then this was really cool, and I don't know if you all know this, but the jazz band room opened today. Today was the inaugural, and so they moved this morning and had their first rehearsal in there. It was a little crazy, but it's super cool. You guys have the jazz band, thumbs up, thumbs down, new jazz room. Yeah. When I talked to Mr. Luttrell, I said, how is it? How's it sound? And he's like, he couldn't believe the difference, because prior to that, they were rehearsing in a classroom. And so a 20-piece big band in a regular classroom. So he was like, my ears are so grateful. And we are so grateful for you guys making that. It's going to make a big difference for the students, their health, and also just for their performance. So thank you for that. All of that whole section has been, I rehearsed in our new ensemble room today. I had been rehearsing them in an instrument storage room. So it was nice to be in a real classroom and not a storage room to rehearse our students. And finally, with our jazz students, we'd love to invite you all. This is really probably the biggest thing for our jazz program in a long while. And they're state champions, they're national finalists, and on January 26th, they're going to actually open for the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra at the Palladium. I don't know how that happened other than our reputation with Lincoln Center. So that's Wynton Marsalis. If any of you know, he is my hero. I don't know if you knew that, Ben, but and so he leads the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra out of New York, and Noblesville High School's Jazz 1 is the opening act. So you might be able to still get tickets. It might be sold out. That's January 26th at the Palladium. So congratulations, jazz students. And at this time, we're going to now recognize the marching band. We're going to bring up all of our students that are here representing the marching Millers. Come on up. I don't even know who's all here. Not the whole marching band. We invited our student leaders. So come on up and face awkwardly. And some of our students are rehearsing. Yeah, make a big arc around there. With good intervals, please. Yeah, come back a little bit more. Do we need to do doubles? So just quickly, we have junior drum major Asher Pullman, and we have Gianna Gunderson, alto saxophone section leader, Wave, so everybody knows. Skylar Butler, tuba section leader, Patrick Cooper, baritone section leader and soloist with the marching band. Riley Davis, marched tuba this year. He sometimes marches flute, sometimes he marches other instruments. Austin Horn, trumpet, and I know Alexis, but I'm trying to think more. Alexis Moore, a mellophone player. Stephanie Kosand, bass clarinet, tenor sax this year. Our senior drum major, Natalie Scholl. We have Thompson. See, when I get nervous, this is how I forget students' names. The two Thompson twins, and we have Addie Thompson. I'm like Taylor Thompson. Flute player, flute section leader. We have, I just have to think for a second. I'll come back in a second. Caleb Eschbaugh on trumpet section leader. Grant Alexander, mellophone section leader. Josh Davis, a tuba section leader? No, just loading crew, Luke crew leader. Emily Horn, clarinet and uniform crew. Another junior drum major, Abby Flint, Elio Mangano, Lil Reeds, and the loading crew, Vincent Tyson, also field crew, and Nika Spalding, our baritone section leader. Let's take this a second. All right, that is applause for me for getting all your names right. We're a little late with the marching band recognition, but not really, because our marching season went until November 16th this year. It was, in reflecting on our 2024, here we are at the first of the school board meeting, it was a landmark year for our pageantry arts programs. Our Winter Guard was state champion and a national finalist. Our Winter Percussion program was third in the state and a national finalist, both moving up a class, competing in open. Our marching band went international and got to march in Ireland over spring break. And then we had a historic marching band season where we competed in the Bands of America National Championships for the first time, and we placed 33rd out of 114 groups, just 3/10 out of semifinals, so we're excited for that. We competed in the Bands of America Indianapolis Super Regional out of 96 groups. We placed 12th and made improving on our placement from last year. And then at Indiana State Finals, we had our best finish ever. The top 10 bands from the state go to this, and we placed 8th in the state. So congratulations to our marching Millers.
Good work. You make us look good. Good job. Good job. Thank you, guys. Good job. Thank you for making us look good. Good work. Good job. Good work. Good work. Good job.
Great job.
You started out first, though. Anyway, I told you we'd take care of this. Okay. That's really good. Okay, I will. Thank you, Eric.
All right. Dr. Heil, we have the hair teacher spotlight, Noblesville High School.
So at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. McCaffrey up to present the hair teachers of the month. And as he's walking up, I always like to remind that Hare Chevrolet Teacher Spotlight Program highlights 3 teachers every month and provides $1,000 to their school for student academic and extracurricular achievement. So with that, Dr. McCaffrey.
Good evening, and thanks everyone for allowing the high school to be here tonight. So to talk about our 3 Hare teachers. So first we'll talk about Brittany Ardent. Brittany is in her 2nd year teaching. She started with Noblesville as a rookie. She's unique. She's our only French teacher. So she replaced an epic teacher, Michelle Tharp Taylor, and came in by herself and is the only French teacher in our building and doing a phenomenal job, which is very, very impressive. And she loves to share her love of languages with students, and students love her class and love being there. Outside the school, she's a piano player, and she really loves Noblesville Schools because of how welcoming and supportive it's been, because it's been challenging when no one else in her department is fluent in French, and so she has to still get help while still being the only French teacher. So very, very impressed for Brittany. Next is Sadie Flint, who is a special education teacher who's been teaching for one and a half years, and that's been here with us at Noblesville. She became a teacher because her mom was a special education teacher, which is something that we always love, is the legacy teacher, that they fell in love with teaching because their parent was a teacher. Sadie is also, she didn't put on here, but she's also the coach of our unified esports team, who were the state champions for Smash Brothers last year. And we just got before break, but has not been announced yet, they're actually the Eastern United States regional champions in Mario Kart, which we don't compete at the state level anymore. We're competing nationally. And so 85 teams for 12 states, and our team was number 1. So we'll be celebrating that down the road. Sadie loves Noblesville Schools because it's special, because it has a tangible sense of community. There's space for students and teachers to learn and grow. So we're very happy to have Sadie on board. And next we have Sally Stevens in zoology, and she's been teaching for 12 years, but only been at Noblesville for 3 or 4. And the thing that the distinct honor she has is she actually teaches in my former classroom. So every time I walk by, I get nostalgic when I go to her room, because that's the room I taught in when I was here. She really loves science and wants, and in teaching zoology, she wants students to appreciate science exploration and the wonders of the animal world and animal conservation. She loves Noblesville Schools because they're special because it's the perfect balance in showing kids kindness and grace while still holding them accountable for their learning. And a lot of that, I've heard a lot from graduated students who were seniors last year that I saw over break that are very grateful for going to college, and that they feel like they're way more ready for college than some of their colleagues in their classrooms. And so that all is due to our awesome teachers. So those are our Noblesville High School Hare Chevrolet teachers. So thank you. Yeah. All right, so at this time I'd like to call Dr. Bridget Lucan and our students up to talk about some of our great programs. As they're working their way up here, I do want to give a lot of special thanks to, first of all, Amy Roberts here from ESC, our Director of Secondary Special Education, along with Aaron Rue, because a lot of the great programming we do is because of the support, because of the structure they put in place. And also a shout out to Barb Olszewski, who's the assistant principal over our special education at the high school, and works with these awesome teachers to see some of these cool programs you're getting ready to hear about right now. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Lucan.
He's more than 12 inches taller than me. I'd like to start by thanking the school board and the cabinet for allowing us to spotlight our program. Even though I was the one that received the honor of delivering a presentation on the first day of the second semester, the success of this program is largely attributed to other people. I'm just one of many teachers, job coaches, and instructional assistants that show up every day for our students. I'd especially like to thank Amy Roberts for her commitment to the best possible education for every child, and for saying yes much more often than she says no. To Dr. McCaffrey for his unwavering support of the gold mine and of our students. for Barb Olszewski, who is our assistant principal over special education, for her willingness to find creative ways to reach every student. To the entire transportation department for getting us where we need to go, to all our jobs in the community, and to Dr. Heil for showing up for our Champions Walk and our Unified Sports, and to buy ice cream at the gold mine. We notice, and the kids notice that that you're there. So thank you. So for those of you who know anything about special education, you know we love acronyms, so we came up with a new one for our program. CLIMB stands for Community Learning for Independent and Meaningful Beginnings, but it really stands for the vocational components that are within the special education curriculum. It used to be known as Project Work. All students who are earning an alternate diploma are enrolled in the CLIMB program, and then we do have some select students that are earning a general or Core 40 diploma but need more support with those vocational skills. So what do we do in CLIMB? We have a vocational skills focused curriculum, and then we apply those skills through various jobs. They start with work boxes and classroom jobs, move into our in-school business, which is the gold mine, and then move on to internships in the community. Students along the way are scored on a rubric of those in-demand soft skills so we can monitor their progress and ensure that they're growing. Why is CLIMB so important? Because 80% of individuals with disabilities nationwide are not in the labor force, and we would like to change that and make sure that our students are employed. Why do we have CLIMB for diploma track kids? And I'd like to say we are the only school in the state of Indiana that does this. But statistics show us that more than 50% of high school exiters with autism, even those with diplomas, are not employed or enrolled within 2 years after they graduate high school. Here are some of our highlights. First of all, our vision is that competitive, integrated employment for all. So we're moving away from shelter workshops. We really want people working with their peers in the community. And we really focus on vocational training through meaningful and necessary employment tasks. So we really want them to do work that's going to help someone else. Our signature place is the gold mine. This is our Noblesville High School school store. It was launched in fall 2022 with just ice cream. Now we have several products. We sell snacks, we sell drinks, we sell merchandise. We're open daily during lunch. We had $29,000 in total sales during the first semester. That kind of blew me away when I looked that up myself. And the jobs that we do in there include stocker, cashier, and inventory runners. We also have a greeter that comes periodically. And one of our highlights of this was the Shonk shirt. I'm not sure if any of you saw that this year. Go Irish, but this is a play on the shirt from Notre Dame. We thought maybe we could take a famous face and see if it would sell, and it worked. We sold to several states online. Left if anyone wants to come by. We also launched the Copy Center this year and offer copy services to all of the Noblesville High School teachers via a Google form. This has especially been used by our science department, specifically the biology teachers. Our students in November and December alone created almost 6,000 copies for teachers to take that off of their workload. We also partnered with our testing coordinator and created all the bins they need with the pencils and scratch paper for the October PSAT, and we'll do that for the March SAT. In fall 2022, we started our NHS teacher supply store. This delivers teacher supplies to all special education teachers in the building. We've filled 125 orders so far. We are working with the Education Foundation to, in the future, partner with Teachers Treasures so that we can do this district-wide. And I just had to have this picture in here. But we also stock the refrigerator. Yes, she's sitting at your seat, Dr. Heil. To fill the press box fridge with the drinks prior to all the home games, so they're there for everyone. So you really don't want to hear from me anyway, so I'm going to let 4 of our students come up to let you know how this has impacted them.
Hi, I am Colin Magson. I am a sophomore, and I work at the gold mine. I want to work in the law enforcement, and I like the gold mine because I like working with the people, and I'm a very social person.
Hi, my name is Ulysses Sanchez. I am a senior. When I grow up, I want to be an electrician and own my own company called SCT Solutions with my father. In the CLIMB program, I work on an Agape and Good Samaritan network. My favorite parts of working at Agape is cleaning the buckets, and my favorite thing at Good Samaritan is counting puzzles and checking expiration dates. I like Dr. Lucan's class because we get to buy food with the climb bucks we earn.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Xander Stein. I am a super senior. When I grow up, I want to work at Guitar Center, fixing guitars and selling guitars part-time. In the CLIMB program, I work at Riverview Hospital. My favorite part of working at Riverview is helping Matt with the salad bar.
Hi, my name is Camille Rollins. I am a senior. When I grow up, I want to work as a movie actress or a fast food worker. In the CLIMB program, I work at Monon Select. My favorite part about working at Monon Select is sorting the balls. Thank you. We would like to present the school with We would like to present to you with each gift from the gold mine.
I need some help by electronics, okay? You want to help me be an electrician, okay? Good job today. You did a good job, all right? Good job, all right?
Yes.
For sure.
Thank you. Hey, good.
Yeah. David. Dave. Oh. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Next on reports, we have the softball building and the East Middle School athletic building design report. David Hortemiller.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to bring up our architects from CSO, and while Mr. Wissing and I don't know if Jeff is going to join me or not. So while Mr. Wissing comes on up to the podium, I just wanted to start off with a quick bond project update to let you know that tonight is going to focus on 2 of the projects that were part of the 2024 bond. and that is the girls' high school softball locker room, as well as the East Middle School athletic building. Those were two projects, of course, that were part of the 2024 bond. The other large ones, of course, the air handlers. The board approved the air handlers in the fall for the two bid packages there, and then the paving, I guess called the next large of the capital projects. We do expect about a March board approval for that contract as well. So again, tonight is to focus on the process up to this point, as CSO, our partners on the design side, have gathered our teams together, both on the operations side, our ADs, our coaches, solicit all the input from them to make sure that we can get an optimal design. And we're going to present that tonight. And then upon his presentation, I'll follow up with the next steps on these projects specifically.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Just wanted to give you a quick update on background on the process that we've gone through so far with both of these projects. We've kind of ran both these projects concurrently, with the softball going to start construction a little bit later than the East Middle, but they both started back in August. We've kind of started with some building tours, going through both the existing outbuilding for East Middle as well as the softball, and then also toured your baseball building, your soccer and tennis building as well, just kind of get an idea for what you were looking for. We've held bi-weekly meetings since the beginning of August, so we've had about 10 or 12 bi-weekly meetings so far. As David mentioned, meeting with your admin staff, with athletic directors, coaches, custodial staff. We really value the input that we get from your team that you've created so far. So they've been very, very helpful meetings to develop that plan. We've gotten input on the plans, on the elevations of the buildings. Let me make sure I'm covering everything. We had a few separate finish meetings to get final input on that as well, to see where we wanted to differ. I know kind of the baseline for softball and a little bit of concessions was your baseball building, making sure that we had equality across all your facilities through here as well. So we'll kind of get into the design of these a little bit. So it looks like we are starting with the softball building. So one of the things that you'll see with this is we have tried to reuse as much of the foundations of your existing buildings we could to help save some money. So that's kind of why you see the long, narrow shape across there. The original building is about 25 feet wide. So we kind of kept that footprint. What you see on the top there is the entry gate into there. So the path that leads from your parking lot to that fence line, you'll see that entry gate right by your ticket booth to kind of help walk them a little bit. There'll be a nice, more ornamental gate in between those two pillars there to kind of welcome everybody into your new facility. Looking at the plan with north to the right, we have a storage unit there on the north side with an overhead garage door located where it currently is. That's the portion of the building that is still using the existing foundations there. Below that would be your mechanical room, kind of that L-shaped space. The yellow block that is inside of that L-shaped space would be a coach's storage office. They're planning on storing the uniforms out there. And then the green space would be the coach's office meeting space. Right next to the coach's office in the orange would be your training room. That was kind of a combination of what you have out at your soccer building as well as your tennis. So you've got an ice machine out there, a mini fridge, a sink. They've got a large toolbox that they kind of use as their equipment storage there. A large trainer's table for students to sit on to get taped before practice, before games. Storage up above it for water coolers, and there will be another spigot in there to make filling those water coolers a little bit easier than what it currently is at some of your other facilities. Behind that space in the blue is a coach's restroom with a few lockers in there, private stall there so they can change in privacy, whether you have male or female coaches for that team. And then the biggest space, the biggest focus would be the red space there. That is the new locker room for the softball team. Has, I believe, 46 total lockers, with 6 of those being a little bit larger for the catchers. They need a little bit more space for their additional equipment that they have. Kind of focused all around a large smart TV in there where they can watch film, go through coaches' notes, just have team bonding there, watching movies if they want to, but a lot of that geared towards development of plays, coaching tips, that kind of thing, with whiteboards on either side as well. So a lot of input that we got from the coaching staff themselves on what they like about the baseball building, what they didn't like about the baseball building. One of the changes that we made with this compared to what you see in the baseball is the flooring in here. Especially talking with the custodial staff, that flooring in the baseball building is a lot harder for them to clean. It scuffs up with kids walking in with cleats quite a bit. So we switched from that rubber athletic flooring to a walk-off carpet. Same carpet tiles that you see in the entries of just about every one of your buildings on campus. So they're a lot more durable. They can take the abuse, the high impact of those cleats. They don't scuff up like that athletic flooring would, and it still gives you the functionality of if one were to get damaged, rip one up, replace a 2x2 square, and be done with it, not have to replace the entire sheet good, or try and patch that in and make it look like a patch. Looking at the elevations of this, so the top one there, your east elevation, that is if you're coming from your two-story existing building out there, kind of in between the two fields, looking at this, what you would see. So we've got kind of a little bit of an extruded overhang there to help protect the doors to the coach's room, the training room, and the locker room. You see a window into both the training room, and you kind of get a little piece of that window behind the column into the coach's office just to help with supervision a little bit. Especially if there's a student and trainer interacting in that training room, they always have another set of eyes on them just for that safety and security. But you've got a couple of double doors to the right, one into the mechanical room, one into the storage room. The bottom elevation, your west elevation, that is kind of what is up along your property line. So it's kind of what we're considering the back of the building. It's probably about 8 to 10 feet away from your property line. You'll see a few mechanical units in there once that building is constructed. But the main point of the elevations is to show that this is going to be mimicking what you have out at your stadium buildings already. So the same decorative CMU that you have there is exactly what's going to be here. So this will match the stadium building that's just to the north of this site. And then kind of the same thing with your north and south elevations. You see that overhead garage door. Those are mislabeled a little bit. The south should be the north and the north should be the south. We're just showing the scale of that overhead garage door, and then again an entry gate elevation mimicking what you did out at baseball for that decorative piece up above saying Millers, and then what we're not showing there would be that ornamental gate in between. Moving on to the East Middle School. So this is going to sit in the same site as what the current building does. As you can kind of see, it's almost two separate buildings connected by an overhead roof, help with mechanical to get some ductwork and piping from one side to the other, but it also kind of funnels everybody into a common entry point for that. It makes it very clear and obvious where that entry is going to be, kind of helps with that traffic flow a little bit. Your ticket office is right there on the corner as they come through that breezeway, and that breezeway is sized large enough to make sure that we can still get emergency medical vehicles through there as well. So any ambulance that you would have out for track and field or football, baseball, would be able to go through that breezeway in the case of emergency. So looking at the plan here, we'll start with the right side. That big red block that you see there is your new concession stand. We got a lot of input from the principals and the custodial staff on this one for flooring types, finish types in there. It'll be all stainless steel countertops, stainless steel cabinets as well. Worked with the admin team as far as the detail for the overhead garage doors that come down there instead of going to the top of the counter where you could deal with a lot of water infiltration issues. Those run all the way down to the ground to help eliminate a lot of that as well. There are full-size fridge, full-size freezer, 3-compartment sink, drink coolers, plenty of storage all the way around, hand washing sink, and a lot of extra room to allow them with a little bit of flexibility depending on, if they in a year or two from now decide they want to change the functionality and of how those are ran for each different type of sporting event, they've got the space to be able to do that. Just to the north of there, we've got 2 individual family restrooms and then a large gang restroom just to the west of that. One of the big challenges we had with this site was making sure that we accommodated not only the football field and the track and field events, but also the tennis events. Knowing that tennis is kind of happening outside of your fenced area, how do we create a building that serves them, but also restricts access to the rest of the facility, so they're not going to be able to get into the football stadium while the tennis event is going on, vice versa, that kind of thing. So that's the family restrooms came in handy with that. Those will serve the tennis courts while that is the only event going on. If there's tennis and football or tennis and track and field, they'll have full access to all of the restrooms that you have there. As you can kind of see, there is that breezeway in between the 2 buildings with, again, a large ornamental gate to kind of serve as the entry point into your football stadium. The green box there is the ticket window with the door to the north that has a large side light there next to the door so they can kind of see people approaching the building. The ticket window where people will actually be interacting with your community will be in that breezeway, so it kind of helps protect from weather a little bit. If there is an inclement weather day while you have an event going on, they've got a little bit of protection as they're purchasing tickets and checking in. The gray box that you see there is a large mechanical room, and then the yellow is a large storage room. It has access from the north side and the south side with both man doors as well as overhead garage doors to try and make ease in and out of that space as simple as possible, and getting some of those larger items like the high jump pads and hurdles and that kind of stuff in and out of that space pretty easy. Looking at the elevations, your north elevation is what you would see as if you're approaching from Field Drive. So again, a clear entry there. You see the overhead garage door on the right of that. You see the ticket door with that side light window there, so so your staff can see people approaching. The large breezeway, and then the two family restroom doors there on the left. Looking at the south elevation, which is what you would see from inside the stadium, and the overhead garage door on the left into the storage, as well as the double door into the mechanical room. The overhead garage door that you see there on the right is what you would use to protect your concession stand. So that is one of your concession entries. And then you can kind of see the water fountain there as well. That is the entry into the gang restroom, the group restroom. And your east and west elevations, the east elevation shows the overhead garage door for the second window for the concession stand, as well as the man door entry to that. And then the west elevation, again, you'll have a little bit of mechanical equipment there, but pretty small, minor, out of the way. So kind of where we're at now too, Dan, I'm sorry if I'm taking over what you were going to say. We are getting ready to release these for bid this Friday. We have our pre-bid meeting on the 21st, and they have the bid opening on February 4th. Like I said at the beginning of this, we've been running these projects concurrently, and they will bid concurrently as well, with the option for a combo bid. Where they will differ is when they start construction. The East Middle School will start, I believe, in March, if I'm not mistaken, with the softball building starting construction in late May, early June. We wanted to make sure we weren't disturbing that softball season, trying to minimize that impact as much as possible. And then construction would run through end of December of this year. Any questions?
I do have a question. What are we doing with the tower, the current locker room for softball, with that building? What is that? Is that going to be renovated, or what are we doing with that?
As part of this, the scope for this project, we aren't really doing much to that building. We are replacing a little bit of concrete around the building just to help. I know there was a few trip hazards out there. But as far as the concessions that are in there, the restroom storage, all that is staying as is.
Okay, so will that be usable restroom space for anyone at the field, so spectators, in addition to the new building restrooms?
There is one single user restroom that is a part of that building that has been used as the umpire restroom. That will be labeled as a family restroom, which the umpires can still use, but it would still be available to the public as a family restroom.
Okay.
And that's to meet our code requirement there as it relates to restrooms. But specifically, though, as it relates to the tower and keeping that was one of the things that we looked into, right, as it relates to, well, we have, if we're going to do a new building, what should we do with this existing one? And in talking with all the stakeholders, it was unanimous that they really liked the structure of that being a two-story right in the middle of the two fields. People could go to the restrooms and still see both games, see what's going on. And then again, having that second story for just visibility for calling the game and so forth. So yeah, to Nick's point, nothing's going to change there except maybe some just minor modifications with the restroom to make sure that for the occupancy out there, that we meet the restroom code requirements.
Okay. Yeah, and I believe that the softball team uses the upstairs as a kind of a team room right now as well. And a lot of that functionality will be moved to the new locker room as part of the team room.
And then, I hate to have you repeat yourself, but could you revisit the access to the restrooms for me at the East Athletics building? So if you're in the football field or track.
Go back there we go. Yeah, so if you are in the track, you've got access to the gang restroom without having to go in and out of that ticketed area.
Okay.
That was one of the complaints that they had now is for people to access restrooms, you don't really have a way of telling who has been checked in, who hasn't. Yes, yep, that below that is inside the gate.
Perfect. And then the two individuals are for other events outside of the football field.
Yes, and if somebody that is, say they're at a football event or track and field event and needs that family restroom, they are still able to go outside. It just limits the number of people that they're going to have to kind of keep an eye on of, all right, you've already entered with a ticket. You can go out and not have to worry about people just kind of sneaking in and out.
Sure. Okay.
And tennis specifically, it works well if they have tennis. There's other restrooms facing north.
Okay. So will tennis have access to the larger restroom as well, or is it just if there's only tennis going on? Is it just those two individual restrooms? Because that
If
doesn't
there's
seem like very much.
Only tennis going on, it will only be those two individual restrooms, which by code does meet
Okay.
code requirements. If there was tennis and another event, then yes, they would have access.
Which I would say, no offense, CSO, to me, that's an athletic director decision, right? If there's no other
Sure.
event going on, they could always choose to open the gate if there's an unusually large competitive tennis match going on that night. I mean, they could always make the decision to open the gate and do that if they wanted to.
Yeah, nothing stopping them from doing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I can't picture exactly where this is going to sit. So the current building, is it staying or is that being?
That'll be raised, yeah.
So that building is gone, and it's set to the side of the walkway walking up to the football.
So the existing walkway that kind of goes into that stadium will stay where it's at. So where the existing building currently sits is where the blue and the red will be, and then on the other side of that walkway is going to be the yellow, the green, and the.
Okay, so the breezeway will be where the walkway is
Correct.
right now.
Yep.
So these two buildings will straddle that. Okay.
Yeah, and so it'll eat into a couple of those parking spots that are there on the north side, but it also gives us the ability to put in a couple of actual handicap spots that are needed there. So we still meet well above the parking count that's required. We're giving you a couple extra handicap spots as well, and that was something that the building level staff had no issues with.
And which part did you say was going to be inside the fence? The football fence, is that what you mean?
The larger restroom area.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly, and we'll have a couple other gates that aren't shown on this, just to kind of help with that. The fence that kind of comes around the north side will die into the side of the building, and then it will leave that bottom right corner as well. And there will be a gate there at that corner to get access to both concession stands. So the tennis facility will have access to one of those windows at all times for the concessions as well.
Well, I know when we visited there, it was really complicated, like how that was all going to be structured. So this is a great solution how you figured that out. So
Yeah,
I really like that.
it was definitely complicated trying to figure out with the fencing a little bit.
Right.
There's also a little bit of grade change there. So you'll see, again,
Yes.
not pictured here, will be a ramp that kind of gets you up to that tennis viewing platform a little bit. And then just to the right of that far east concession window, there will be a little bit of a half wall there, like a seat wall, to make up the difference between the elevation of the track, that football field, that level, and where your tennis courts are
That's
at.
higher.
Yeah, so the tennis courts are about 1'8" higher. So you'll have a little bit of a seat wall guardrail there to help with that protection. And then just to the north of that will be an ADA accessible ramp to get you up there.
Okay.
It looks great.
It does. And the softball, I wish you had a before and after. I wish people could see that. Where
We thought about including some of the
Wowzers.
existing photos because, that building, both buildings, the East Middle and that softball, are in rough condition.
And they're going to have like heat and air conditioning.
Yep.
Now
All year
'cause
round.
Before they
no
did
need to
not.
go
It
through the
was like
winterization process.
Okay.
That's part of the reason why the coach wanted to store the uniforms out there. Didn't have to worry about those sitting out in cold weather or anything like that.
The entry gate for the softball is really cool.
Yeah.
We have that at all the sites, right?
I like how
soccer
it mimics
fields
the
and
baseball
matches
tournaments,
everywhere.
But the girls didn't have it.
Yeah, no, agreed. With the entry gate for softball, just to confirm, that's going to be placed on the north end. So if you're coming like from the high school parking lot, walking up that way, is there an access point on the south side of it too that we need to close off? Or I
Currently,
don't remember how that's
no.
laid out over there.
No, there is a path that leads from your existing softball field all the way to that south parking lot that is not technically on Noblesville School property. We are eliminating that path altogether just to help avoid some of that confusion, but it will be completely fenced in. So if somebody did try to approach from that side, they'd have to walk all the way around to the north to get in.
Is your guess that this will be on budget as to what we? Okay, yeah, 'cause this seems a little bigger than what we currently have at East. So.
Yep, it's definitely giving you more square footage than what you have at East, and more square footage than what you have out of the softball field as well. But the last estimate we had us on budget.
Good. So the softball is big. You're not using the exact footprint. You're building on the.
We are doubling the size of the softball building.
Okay.
So half of the building is sitting on the existing foundations. Excuse me.
Okay.
And then the other half are new foundations, just extending it further to the south.
Okay.
I just
Also
want to add to
kind of
that.
centers that building on that east-west path as
Yes,
well.
Yes.
Board, I do want to add just real quick, because I know when we originally presented this, that we said that we would renovate that
Yes.
facility and potentially add on. Well, in looking at how much budget we allocated, and CSO, of course, just diving into this, the structure of that building, ultimately, we decided that we could still be under budget to utilize some of the foundation, I believe, but demolish the building itself. So that building actually will end up being demolished and replaced with a whole new structure out there.
The foundation.
Existing precast concrete wall panels, just the amount of work you'd have to do, the exposed plumbing that you would end up with there, it really would not, for the amount of money that you would spend, it wouldn't be what you would want. So it was financially a better decision to just use the foundations to save a little bit of money.
Sure. So, talk to me about the restroom for the girls' softball building. There's the coach's restroom, and then there's one other restroom. Are there restroom facilities for spectators?
The restroom facilities for the spectators are in that two-story building. So the
Okay.
softball building is going to be just for players and staff.
And how many are there in that other building?
There is 3 fixtures in the male and 3 fixtures in the female, which again does meet code.
Okay.
Part of the reason why we are wanting to switch the umpire-only restroom to a family restroom to give us the 7th fixture that's required by code. Yeah,
I mean, I know you say it's, it supports code as far as the number, but is that realistic? Because I know sometimes code might make things a little tight.
Yeah,
We
based
could
off
go
of
above.
what we're hearing from the coaches, the max number of spectators they would expect out there, we felt pretty comfortable with keeping the existing, and as well as long as we were opening up that family restroom to them. You're right, code can be a minimum, but in these instances, we felt pretty comfortable with the numbers that we had there.
Okay.
So yeah, the restrooms that you're seeing here, obviously the group restroom that's in the softball locker rooms, that's just for the softball team themselves, and then the individual is for coaching staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions?
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right, we are moving on to public comment, and this part of our meeting is public comment over an agenda item. As a reminder, we ask for respectful behavior from speakers and audience. When you're called to the microphone to speak, please state your full name and the agenda item that you are addressing, and you will have 3 minutes. And we have Melba Kaiser, please. No? Okay, all right. Thank you, Melba. All right, so we are moving on to our consent items. And by a single motion, the board approves and adopts the following items: claims, donation, minutes from our December 2024 meeting, overnight and out-of-state trips, and personnel listings. May I have a motion to approve the consent items as listed?
So move.
Joe?
Second.
Second by Stephanie. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Oh.
Good, go.
I just have a question on one of the overnight field trips, for which I don't know if anyone here is going to have an answer to. The one for Carmel for the theater. From what I'm gathering, it looks like it appears to be an overnight trip for 2 nights, but it's in Carmel. And then there's an indication of a family expense of $215, which seems pretty cheap if in fact it is a 2-night overnight trip. And it also indicates it's 212 miles.
I can speak to this.
Okay.
I believe this is a trip that the Thespian group does every year. While it is local, it is an all day, all night, and it's over 2 days. And so they typically, in these types of trips, they will just decide to do an overnight trip. I don't have the exact thing pulled up in front of me right now, the full request, but I'm going off memory a little bit here.
Sure,
But I
sure.
believe that's likely the case with this particular trip.
I mean, $215 seems awfully cheap though per family if you have 2 nights of a hotel stay, unless they're maybe bunking up with each other or something.
I'm sure they're sharing rooms.
Yeah.
And I'm going to guess.
212 miles.
I'm sure an extra number was typoed into that mileage.
Yeah.
Just
It's
using
in
my
Carmel.
context
That's
clues,
probably,
that'd be a pretty long round trip to Carmel.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Guessing one of those 2s isn't supposed to be there on front end or the back end where they calculated from. So we'll double check that.
Okay.
Thank
And I'd also
All right.
like to.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'd also like to, again, I always appreciate our community donating to help us with students. Lynette Husted to Noblesville East gave $125 to assist students in need.
All right. All right, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we have one action item tonight. That is the summer school program dates and offerings. May I have a motion to approve the 2025 summer school program dates and offerings?
Motion.
Misty?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any further discussion?
There was some conversation about reimbursement for summer school, right, through the state. Are our offerings affected at all by the amount of money we're getting from?
The short answer is no. We're still going to offer everything we need to offer to take care of the children in Noblesville.
Okay.
What that does to us in terms of budget impact remains to be seen. And you've heard me talk about this before, Board. The hardest part about summer school is that it's done on a reimbursement basis, and so you go ahead and offer what you're going to offer, and then you find out later how much money you get. So we just have to be prepared that David may have to absorb any shortfalls that happen, but at the end of the day, we're committed to taking care of the kids.
Okay.
So we're gonna do what's right by the kids, and we will figure out the rest later.
Yep. Which is what we want to do. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Next up, we have public comment on a non-agenda item, but we did not have anyone that registered. So we will move past that to committee reports. Dr. Heil.
All right, thank you, Board. And I know you just voted on it, but I want to say, because she has been sitting right there the whole time, congratulations to Miss Angie Gingrich. She's the new principal of North Elementary as of just a few minutes ago. So congratulations. Thanks for being here tonight. I did promise her she doesn't have to speak or anything, so I will stop there. Congrats again. I know I said earlier, but congrats again to Brett Richardson for starting his first term and to Chrissy and Stephanie on starting their second terms. We had a successful first day back today after a very exciting day yesterday for all of us here in Indiana as the winter storm took over. And I do want to say a special thank you and appreciation to our maintenance and ground crews. They worked so hard to prep our sidewalks and parking lots. I actually had an early morning meeting at North this morning, and I just couldn't believe how clean and safe all the sidewalks were for the families and the kids arriving. It was so great. And we really appreciate those folks so much for the work and hours that they put in. A lot of times earlier than any of us are awake yet. They're already out there working hard. So two other things I want to highlight very quickly. Nominations are actually coming up and are due on January 17th for our new Hall of Fame that you heard me announce back at State of the Schools. So this is a new initiative that Marty and Heather are leading in collaboration with the Ed Foundation. And it's designed to honor former employees, alumni, community members who've demonstrated exceptional service, support, accomplishments, or contributions here to our school community at Noblesville Schools. And our first class of inductees we anticipate announcing at Millerpalooza in March. And we're working with the operations team to explore a permanent outdoor structure to honor these individuals. So we'll talk about that again soon. And if you haven't already done so, if you have someone you'd like to nominate, the nomination form can be found on the website under the community tab. And then the last thing, I want to encourage everybody, start keeping an eye out for our third annual Connect State of the Schools print publication, because they will start arriving in mailboxes here in just a few weeks. This is an important way that we started my first year here at Noblesville, just as a way to connect with every community member that lives here in Noblesville Township. You know, we talk a lot about all the various ways we try to communicate and be very transparent and share everything we can with the community, but it is hard because we don't see everyone all the time. And so it's very important to us to find ways to connect with those, especially those who have a harder time engaging with us because they may not have children here or be as engaged with the school. So again, excited that that'll be going out soon, and please make sure you take a look when it shows up in your mailbox. And that's all I have tonight. Next, Board.
Okay. Our next regular school board meeting is Tuesday, February 18th here at 6 p.m. We are going to adjourn this meeting, and then right after this meeting, we will have our Board of Finance meeting. So may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Move.
Joe? Second by Misty. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right,
I'd
Joe.
like to call to order the Board of Finance meeting, January 7th, 2025. Pursuant to IC 5-13-7-6, the Board of Finance shall meet annually and shall elect from the board's membership a president and a secretary. The officers elected shall hold office until the officers' successors are elected and qualified. Pursuant to 5-13-7-7, the board shall receive and renew the annual statement of investment earnings, investment policies, and finance. All right.
As the 24 Board of Finance President, I will open the reorganization portion of the meeting and call for nominations for the President and for the Secretary for the 2025 Board of Finance.
I would like to nominate Misty for the president and Brett for secretary.
Have a second? And I have a second from Stephanie. Okay. I have a motion from the board for the president and the secretary of Misty and Brett. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I will turn the meeting over to Misty Ray, and she'll proceed from there.
Okay, so now it looks like pursuant to Indiana Code 5137-7, the 2025 Board of Finance has had the opportunity to review the annual statement of investment earnings, the investment income policy, and the fiscal indicators report. And I'm told I turn it over to you now, David.
Thank you, Misty. Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and go through each of those statutorily required pieces of information that, of course, as you said, you've already reviewed, but of course, just to go into a little bit more detail for your sake and for the sake of the audience, the public tonight, starting first with, I guess, really the easiest, and that is the statement of income from our investments as well as our investment policy. So our investment policy is, of course, the same policy. So we're fortunate there that, hey, nothing has changed in that. So the approval of that tonight is continuing forth with what we've been doing in terms of our investment policy. The investment income report, of course, is in essence a result of that income or that investment policy, suggesting that what we do with our investments is a result of how we administer that policy. And so that report that you've had a chance to review shows that for 2024, the calendar year, we brought in just over $2.9 million, almost $3 million of interest last calendar year for the district to, of course, be put back into our budget, which, as you recall, one of our strategies in our strategic plan to invest our cash and invest it well to maximize our income, I'd like to suggest that we've done a pretty good job of that. For the most part, as you see there from the report, we invest most of our funds with Trust Indiana. I'm very, very biased towards Trust Indiana, recognizing that I believe that their rate of returns are very hard to beat, as well as the flexibility, the liquidity that they offer. Because in terms of having a strategy to maximize that income, and them not being our bank account like First Merchants is, what you see on that report shows that that income amount in that bank is fluctuating daily because we always have to have money in the bank, cash flow, right, to have payroll, our debt service, and other checks that are going out the door. So recognizing that rate of return at First Merchants was anywhere between 2% and 4%, depending on our different various bank accounts and the rates of returns that they're willing to offer us, which is why, again, we put the majority of our money in Trust Indiana, which last year averaged a daily rate of return of 5.2%. So anytime banks say, hey, would you want to put your money in with us? I say, can you match Trust Indiana? And they usually don't come back knocking again. So again, a lot of credit to the finance team in helping model cash flow and making sure that we always have enough money to pay our bills, but also maximize our rate of return at the same time. I just looked today at Trust Indiana, and right now the daily rate is down to 4.4. So of course we all hear in the news that the rates are going down, and so that's a direct reflection in terms of how much Trust Indiana can get back in terms of their investments, which I won't read that to you, but that's all note number 2 if you're curious about what type of investments are at Trust Indiana. That's in note number 2 right there. So down to 4.4 right now, and starting off the year for 2025.
I have a question to help maybe the public understand. Where's the money come from that we're investing? We've talked about this before, but for public consumption, what money are you investing? Where do you get this money?
Yeah, in fact, that kind of segues into the next part of the presentation with the fiscal indicators, and that money is our fund balance, our cash on hand. So having strong balances here at Noblesville Schools is a very, I think, good indicator of our fiscal strength. And so it is that cash, that fund balance that we have. It's our bank account in essence.
Thank you.
And so with that, then I will move on to the third and final required piece of the presentation, and that is that fiscal indicators report. And in reviewing this data with you, I'll also try to tie it into our strategic plan and some of those aspects that we incorporated into the plan, and then follow up with some additional aspects of our strategic plan since we have the opportunity during this Board of Finance meeting to talk about that. So First thing I want to just, I guess, call out for everyone's knowledge. It's very kind of unfortunate that the data in this report is a year old, right? So every year we kind of just throw that reminder out there that, this is the state data, this is the state required report, and the data they give to us to use is the year-end 2023 data. So literally a year old, but nonetheless, I still tried to provide analysis for you, a narrative in the report that was provided that's also posted in the board docs publicly for anyone to review as well. In addition to that, there's also another unfortunate reporting error that we've actually talked to. It's called the Distress Units Appeals Board, who puts out this data. There's a reporting kind of glitch, if you will, in how they report investment income. And so it kind of throws off some of the charts as well. So I didn't even want to kind of put them up on the screen. I just thought it'd be better just to kind of talk about those tonight, because at the end of the day, these fiscal indicators, I do give them credit. If there was a few ways to show an entity's fiscal health, they do a good job picking the right indicators. So there's 6 graphs in total, and the first 4 I think are very good indications of entities' fiscal health, followed by 2 more that are really just more kind of for perspective, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So just kind of going through them real quick. So the ADM, it shows really our ADM count over the last, I think, 6 or 7 years. And of course, our graph looks pretty boring because our ADM has been pretty steady, pretty flat, hovering around the 10.4, 10.3 range. Obviously, that's important from a fiscal standpoint because of the ADM, the foundation grant amount, which for this school year is around $6,681. So that is a very big piece of our financial planning and our fiscal projections. That is also why in our strategic plan, we talk about the fact that one of our strategies is that we want to engage, a professional demographer to help us with those projections. Of course, we did that. You all heard the presentation in November from Dr. McKibben, essentially saying that our graph is going to continue to look boring, right? That it's going to have that flat enrollment projection throughout really the next 10 years, which again, from a budget and fiscal planning standpoint, that's all the more, I guess, kind of helpful to have steady enrollment from a budget perspective. So from there, it goes into fund balances. They actually have 2 fund balance graphs, and I think that's because, kind of like what Joe you were alluding to earlier, it's really the cash on hand, our ability to, just like earlier we talked about summer school and Dr. Heil talked about the ability to absorb. So if we have cash on hand, if we have strong balances, we can adjust, making sure that at the end of the day, just like our strategic plan says, we put the mission of the district first, and we're able to absorb things and then make adjustments into the future as necessary. So having 2 fund balance graphs in this indicators report is good. So that way everyone really can better understand and fully absorb how important that aspect is. So the first one really just shows how much are our fund balances. And so again, you can see from that graph, that we do have very strong balances based on where those come in at. And then the second one really comes or speaks to well, how much is appropriate, and that's often referred to as a percent of your budget, right? So as our policy, school board policy states, and it's further supported by a strategic plan to say that we will adhere to that school board policy. And I'll summarize in one sentence what that full policy is essentially saying is that we'll maintain a cash levels consistent with board policy, which is a minimum target between 8 and 15%, with a goal to maintain $4 million in the rainy day fund. So again, that 8 to 15% is to say that we need that much in fund balance as a percent of our overall budget. And going back to our budget presentation in the budget book that I delivered to each of the board members, there are fund performance in there, and at ending 2025, so to already look ahead, because I always want to look ahead, that's why again with these graphs, looking behind isn't as always as helpful, but in looking ahead to 2025, we show that yes, we may be spending down balances in the budget, but it is appropriate because we want to maintain that level, those levels being between 15 and 20%, so still above that minimum that we want to target at that 8 to 15%. And then I can go ahead and tell you that the year-end balance for the rainy day fund is at $4.9 million, almost $5 million in our rainy day fund as well, which instead of calling it the rainy day fund, I like to refer to that as our fiscal stability fund. And that plays very well when we go through a ratings analysis with whether it's S&P or whomever to show that we have the rainy day fund set aside in addition to those dollars in our fund specific. Moving on then to our annual surplus deficit graph. This is going to essentially just be what I like to refer to as budget performance. So whether or not you performed with a surplus or a deficit, and if you're looking at just budget funds, in theory, we should always have a surplus because we should never overspend our budget. So whether it's you overspend or underspend by $1 to have a surplus of $1 or $1 million, we should always have a surplus there. But since this graph includes all funds, it will include, for example, like your capital project funds. So like the bond funds that we just received in the fall of $17 million. As we spend down those are not revenue supported, so it'll show that spend down. So there are instances where you will have deficits, but that's just due to the fact that you're spending that down for planned capital expenditures. But as our strategic plan says, we want to always adopt budgets that balance the operating expenses and annual revenue. And so that is, again, what we've done in 2024, 2025. That's what our budgets do, is look at our true operating costs and make sure that we are in balance in that regard. Or if we have sufficient fund balances, that we're spending those down strategically, knowing that we may be on the higher end and we want to maintain that optimal range. And then the last two graphs are kind of what I mentioned earlier. These are graphs that really just offer more perspective as opposed to a true symbol of fiscal strength or fiscal health. And that first one being that revenue by type. So in looking at that graph is just going to show really what you already know, and that revenue from the state funding formula makes up the majority of the revenue that funds our budget, followed by the local property tax in second. And then the final graph shows the operating referendum revenue as a percent of that total revenue. And then, again, this is where that error is very glaringly obvious, because if you do adjust for 2023, it's going to maintain a consistent percentage around 12%, to say that overall about 12% of our total revenue, and again, that looks at total funds, so that would include funds outside of our budget that the school board approves. So, for example, federal grant dollars, it's going to be about 12% of our overall budget. So that wraps up the fiscal indicator report. But just very quickly, I wanted to talk really quickly about some of the ways that the measures of success within our strategic plan that we've been working on already, and that we've kind of set up for 2025. Starting first within the measure of the mission of the school corporation is achieved while minimizing tax impact on taxpayers. So I know that we've been talking about this for a while now, but sometimes just things do take time. To say that for the sixth straight year, we've decreased the tax rate for Noblesville taxpayers. So in 2025, that will be $1.25. That is would be more official than the last time we spoke, because after the board approves the budget, we go through what's called the 1782 process. So I work with DLGF, and they completely review our budget, make sure that everything is appropriate, and then they come back and then they certify that number. So we're expecting our Hamilton County budget order, which shows all the tax rates for all the local taxing districts, in the next week or so. In fact, we probably should have already had it by now, but I think that the DLGF is just a little behind, and so at that point they'll certify that number. But I already know that it has been confirmed by DLGF that next year our rate, again for the sixth straight year, will be $1.25. And again, just maybe since Brett's new, when we say $1.25, that's $1.25 for every $100 of assessed valuation, and so that will be certified here shortly for the county officials to get that on tax bills for 2025. We also talk about in our pillar for fiscal responsibility and facilities, the facility maintenance and upgrades are funded in alignment with the district's capital plan. So I think it's very timely tonight that we had the presentation from CSO to talk about one aspect of our capital plan that we've already funded. But I just wanted to update you really quickly to say that, of course, we're always in this planning process, and that our next bond presentation we're shooting for March or potentially as late as April this year to bring forward to you the next projects that are within our capital plan. I think you already know, not to spoil it, but the majority of that will be the high school air handlers, as we've already talked about, that'll be in 3 phases. So that second phase will make up that in our March or potentially April bond presentation. And then finally, we have a measure of success that speaks to our financial systems, showing strong accounting controls, robust reporting, and advanced connectivity. And I thought that this would be just a good opportunity to highlight one aspect of this. When it comes to advanced connectivity, you may say, well, what does that mean? And of course, it can be interpreted multiple ways. But in this case, I like to think about it in the way that you have connectivity to your data. And yesterday, in working from home, we had some team members. Just as early as December, we have in the finance office we've been working on our paperless initiative for a long time, but trying to get all of our invoices, not in file cabinets, not in boxes, but getting them scanned into our system. One team member came to me today and said, that was pretty nice that yesterday I could just access that from home and see that invoice and pull that up. And it was just kind of one of those moments where, hey, those are these initiatives that we're working on to say, hey, like we always want to have advanced connectivity to our data so that we have it on the spot, we have real-time access to that information. So it's in its beginning phases, but that's ultimately our goal, and hopefully, throughout this year, we'll fully get there in the business office. So with that, just be happy to take any questions and go from there.
We appreciate what you do, and I'm always intrigued by the investment thing that you brought forward, where we've made nearly $3 million at serial investment. So I appreciate your hard work, but also appreciate your delivery and your presentation, which makes it possible both for us, the cabinet, and the public to understand what we do with our finances here at school. So thanks for doing a good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Very detailed. Lots of information to digest. Thank you for everything that you do, David. Okay, so it looks like we're ready to have a motion to accept the annual State of Investment Earnings, the Investment Income Policy, and the Fiscal Indicators Report.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Joe, second by Christy. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carried.
You want adjournment. Next page. You get adjournment. Sure, I got it for you. I got it.
Sorry, I'm a rookie.
We'll get no.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Is that what I'm doing?
Here we are, right there.
Yeah.
I think, nope.
Yeah.
It's the next page. Did I get it to you?
Oh, wrong one.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
I like the other one.
We have new seats up here, so we're all helping each other.
Okay, yes. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Move.
Oh, all right. Who's doing it?
I'll do it.
Christy, second by Brett. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 7:21.
All righty. Good work.
Thank you.
Your presentation.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, everyone.
Very much.
Thank you. It was really good.
Okay.